Well, good evening. Welcome again to another edition of Swerve with me. I'm Miranda Innes, and as always, it's a pleasure to have all of you out there. Let's do first things first. Make sure that you share this live stream, begin to start a watch party because tonight we're going on another journey. This is again an adult conversation for mature audiences only. And we want you to gather up your girlfriends, your boyfriends, your husband, your wife. If you have young adult kids, if you have teen kids, this is going to be the type of show that can transform lives. And so I promise you, if you stick with us, you will be changed. It gives me great pleasure tonight to introduce to you someone that I've known for most of her life, actually. Most of her life, if not all of her life, literally. I'm so happy to present to you my little sister, LaQuisha Williams. LaQuisha is a PK. She is a pastor's kid for sure. And so her journey has been simply amazing, transitioning from an adolescent into a young adult, and she's maturing with age. We'll talk a little bit about that, how the years has changed her. But please help me welcome the creator of the World Class Woman Network, LaQuisha Williams, to the show tonight. Quisha, it's good to have you. It's already, Quisha, you just froze for a minute. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't hear you, but it's good to have you. Okay, so
good night, everybody. Good night, good night, good night. I don't know what happened, so I'm glad to be here with Miranda and also to the Swerve with Me family. Good night, everyone.
Good night, good night. It's so good to have you. So we want to talk a little bit about the beginning. We know that the genesis of anything is so very important. And I want to talk about your journey as a young girl, being raised, of course, in the home of a pastor, parents actually, who were in ministry, in addition to a mother who was an educator. Let's start with the pressure, if any, that you felt being a young girl raised in a home under what I believe would have been much scrutiny.
Yes. So for those who are not familiar with who I am LaQuisha Williams, creator of the World Class Women Network, where I help successful women to live their best lives from the inside out, because I truly believe you're not winning if you're not winning from within. So a little bit about who I am. I am a daughter of a bishop and a retired school teacher. And tell me, I thought that was a quick trick question that Miranda was asking. Was it pressure? Of course there was. You had the bishop and then you had the educator. So it was so much pressure. But at the time, I did not know it was pressure. I just thought it was the way we had to do things within our home. So once we got out of that, I realized that I'm not like everyone else. I realized that, okay, we can't do, and back home we would say, you can't even spit without somebody finding it out. But the time you spat on the ground, your mom knew, my mom knew, and my dad knew. And that was the thing that always got me like, can we just live? And I'm going to share with you guys about that later, about me wanting to just live my life, right? And so, yes, it was so much pressure because people, just society. And now that I've done a lot of work, I realize that they just didn't know and they didn't understand. But the pressures that society, that church members, that people would put on persons whose parents were of affluence, it really caused us a lot of pain inside. So you have a lot of people who are PKs or persons of, parents who are of affluence. They struggle silently, not knowing how to share what they're dealing with on the inside.
So let's talk a little bit about that struggle as an adolescent girl going into the primary school system, junior high school system. How did everybody know the minute they heard your name? Did everybody know who your parents were, or were there times when you could actually feel quote unquote normal and be yourself, or do you? So what was that like going through the school system?
I don't think any PK or pastor's kid uh, knew how to do that, like knew how to disguise ourselves, because it was always pointed out. And so for one of the things that always got us, I went to private schools, and the private schools were smaller, so our classrooms were smaller. So everyone kind of knew who's who within the classroom. And even when I graduated, it was about 3 pastors' kids in my class. So everyone knew who it was. And first of all, my dad had a different type of car that looked like it stand out. My siblings and I, we all had names begin with LAQ, so that stood us out. And so the things we kind of struggle, because I wanted to find my way, but society, my peers, my classmates, they were not allowing me to be, because every time I tried to try to be cool, it's like, you're the pastor's daughter, you shouldn't be, or you the pastor's daughter, or you couldn't be. And I know, because we were so strict and my parents were so strict, and so we were so sheltered, every time there was in Freeport, we had what we call Port LaQuisha. And in order to go to Port LaQuisha, Miranda, you had to go with a chaperone. So at 14, 15, 16, you had to go with a chaperone. If my parents were out of town, you had someone sleeping. So it was always someone controlling our lives. So we were not able to really do what we wanted to do and experience life for ourselves.
How frustrating was that being a teenager in particular? Because usually the teen years, those adolescent years, are the years when we're quote unquote finding ourselves and wanting to spend more time with peers and hang out. So, how frustrating was that for LaQuisha in particular?
That was very frustrating to me, because I felt that no one understood me. And I was like, I'm normal. I'm the same. I'm like you. Why can't I go to the party? Why can't I hang out? And that was one of the things that really, really, I just couldn't wait until I was 17, graduated, and move out so that I can be able to live my life, because it felt for so many years, Miranda, that I was under my parents' shadow. And I've always been the one. I never wanted to be under their shadow because of who they are or who they were at the time, that I was able to not be myself. So no one got to really know who LaQuisha was. So I struggled with people pleasing, where I wanted everyone to like me. So I wanted everyone to say, hey, that's the cool PK. That's the cool Quisha. Like, she can come and hang with us. But a lot of times it's still stuck with, you're a PK, you can't go. You're a PK, you can't do this. And then on top of that, those in the public school sector knew my mom, and she was strict. So it's like, Miss Williams, know where you at? So it was like these two wars fighting. Like, I couldn't get out of it for sure.
So you're 17, you graduated high school, and you made the decision to go to the US for the first time on your own, at least away from your family. Talk about the transition of leaving Grand Bahama for the first time without any parents being there day to day with you. I know you had roommates, but talk about what it felt like, what that independence felt like for LaQuisha all by herself.
Listen, I loved it. Like, I was always a fearless child and a fearless adult. Even now, I loved it. I wanted to experience life for myself and what that was for me. I didn't know which direction it would take me, but I enjoyed it. I graduated in 1998 from Sunline Baptist Academy. It was Sunline Lutheran School at the time. At the age of 17 in 1998, August of 1998, I moved. And so I moved, and I was so excited to explore this new life, because I was not now living under the shadow of who my parents were. Now, one of the things that I must say is that because of the the direction, the discipline, the guidance that was taught to me by my parents, I was able to hold those foundation. So that was another exposure coming, leaving home at 17 and being exposed to a whole new different world. So many people that who encountered me during that time call me green because I was not exposed to a lot of things. And so this was another time for me to try to know who is LaQuisha. So all throughout my life, I was trying to find who LaQuisha was. Now, granted, I was happy. Like I really, really was happy. I love my family, have an amazing family, but the pressures of people that will put on us, and it still happens today. And that's what I'm like, it irks me because adults I think they forgot that they were once children. They were once teenagers. So once I got at 17 and I moved to Florida, I enjoyed it. I was not saying crying, I got to come home and this and that or whatever. Every chance I got, I went home, but I just love to be able to explore this new season in my life.
What was the first thing that you did as this teenager out on your own that you couldn't do? Let's get down to the nitty gritty. What was the first thing that you do that you couldn't do had you been at home?
I couldn't have a boyfriend.
Okay.
That was one of the first things. So I remember I was 19. I had my first boyfriend at 19. And I remember my dad was visiting and I was so afraid, right? And so I wrote a letter and I put it in his briefcase. And I said, well, he gonna see that when he left. And I was like, could I date? I was kind of like asking if I can have a boyfriend or whatever. But they were not the parents who sat you down and talk about these things. So I kind of had to figure it out for myself.
Okay, seems like she froze again for some reason. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to a conversation with me, Miranda Innes, along with LaQuisha Williams, and she froze for a moment. But we're talking about identity, and she's taking us on a journey of what her life was like as a P kid and then matriculating to university at the age of 17. So here she comes back again. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
I hear you. I don't know what happened. Can you hear me?
Yes. You still appear frozen to me. So
frozen.
Okay. Can say something now. Let me see. Yeah, okay, you're live now.
Okay.
You're live now. So yeah, we were talking about you dating for the first time at 19 and didn't have that discussion with your parents?
Yeah, so I wrote a letter to my dad and I said, listen, I'm dating. I found this, this guy is interested. And because I was afraid, because we were so sheltered, I left the message in his briefcase so that he can read. But like I said, a lot of times this relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend was not a discussion in our home. So it was like, I don't know what to expect. And I was 19 at this time. And so once I was able to do that, I said, you know what, the person that I was staying with at the time, I said, you know what, let me talk to them, see what they're going to be, what their view on this would be. And once that happened, then the doors started opening up and I started to become more confident as speaking to my parents, because even though they still looked at me like the baby, but I showed them that, I'm maturing, this guy, he's interested in me. And so that was the first thing that I did once I got out of home. I dated for the first time. I did not hide, put it like that.
How long did that first relationship last? And was there any point when you actually compared him to your father in any way? The things that you saw your father perhaps doing for your mother, was there a comparison or you didn't even think about it?
Yeah, so we dated for 4 years.
Okay, she dropped again and it was just getting good, y'all. So let's keep talking until hopefully she comes back and we can hear more about her dating for the first time at 19. Some of you, can you type in the comments until we wait for her to come back? When was the first time that you officially dated? How old were you? Let me see in the comments. How old were you when you officially dated for the first time? Let's see if I can see that. Anybody? Looking for some comments. How old were you when you officially dated for the first time? She's obviously having some problems. Anybody? How old are you when you officially dated for the first time? Somebody said 14, 16. Okay. Wow. 20. Okay. I was 18 because I was in college. And so it was like, okay, it's time to start dating. It's time for me to really get to know what it's like to date without the pressure of somebody coming home. I could recall 17. Okay, I see Loretta at 17. Charlie Bethel says, what? 18. Okay, 18 years old. I definitely remember dating for the first time. I was 17 when I went to college as well, but started dating for the first time at 18. And the first thing that I was really thinking about was the fact that I didn't have the pressure of a parent or guardian telling me when to come in, and how late I could stay up, or the person could be at the house. Or so I remember just the liberty of being able to stay up as long as I wanted to, and I just be in the company of a male talking about different things without your mother. I recall, by the way, my mother. I remember my sisters dating, and I see one of my sisters is on this particular call tonight, this live stream. And I could recall them dating, and them telling me the stories, because I wasn't in the house with them, but them telling me the stories of how if somebody came over and she was ready for them to leave, she would start like closing up the curtains or whatever, and giving an indication that it was time for them to go. How many others of you have had that kind of experience where you have had your mother or some parent or guardian start closing the curtains or turning off the lights, or literally telling you in front of your guests that it's time to go? How many of you have had that experience? I recall that happening with my sisters, with my mother literally starting to do all the curtains and closing that, and telling them it's time to get that person out the house. So, okay, I see LaQuisha is back. Quisha, good to have you back. I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's breaking up. I don't know if that's on my end. The weather is really, really bad here, and I don't know if that's what's holding it.
Okay,
what's happening.
So you're back now, and I was talking to them a little while ago. How old were they when they first dated? Some people said, mostly I've been seeing like 17, 18, which was the average age when most people started dating for the first time, and feeling themselves, the liberty of being able to date without a parent or guardian, with them. Okay, so there she goes again. Velma Robinson says, I did not have the freedom that they do these days. I don't think anybody had that kind of freedom nowadays. I don't think anybody has the freedom that they have nowadays. So she's popping in and out again. This is going to be interesting. Okay, so we're back again. So let's get back into it. So you started dating at 19 for the first time. That lasted 4 years. What were some of the lessons that you learned dating? First of all, you're dating for the first time. What did you have to get used to? And did you have any particular expectations of what he should be, or who he should be, or how he should treat you as you were dating him?
Yes, definitely. So one of the things that in my household, my dad set the standard so high. So what I was looking for at the time was everything, the qualities, the character, and everything of my dad in this person. And at first, he had those qualities and characters. And so I was definitely comparing the guy that I was dating to my dad.
Mm-hmm. And he lived up to it for the most part. For the
For
most
the
part,
most part.
was that something stated to him that you said to him in terms of what you were looking for in relation to your dad, or there she goes again, or was that something unspoken? I'm not sure what's happening here, but as we continue to navigate our way through this off again, on again, let's talk a little bit more about the expectations with you out there who dated for the first time. The first guy, I should say, the first guy that you dated seriously. Okay, she's back again. Yeah, the weather must be really terrible there because this keeps popping off. But I was saying, was that something stated to him that you were in essence comparing him to the things that your father may have done for your mother, or was that just something subconsciously that you were looking for, or was that a discussion that you had with him?
It was definitely a discussion that I had with him, because one thing that I know is that you have to teach people how to treat you. And so one of the things that I had to let him know is like, these are my expectations, even though that's where we butt heads a lot, because he was like, I'm not your dad, you know, but that I just had to share with him what I knew. And because I was not exposed to a lot, I was not able to, so I was able to tell him this is what the expectation was. And at the time, at the beginning, he was okay with ensuring that he met those expectations.
So when did it change? You said at the beginning. So when did it switch?
It switched after I found out, and if those who don't know my story, you got to just stay plugged in to listen to it, is when he had cheated on me.
Okay.
Yeah. So when he had cheated on me, I knew, I was like, this is not something that I'm familiar with. And that was when things started to shift. And it started to turn internally, in the way I do things and how I was looking at myself, and also understanding who I was. And
So
so,
what kind of impact did the fact that he cheated on you, which we know like that pretty much happens in most relationships, particularly not even just because you're young, it just happens. But how did his cheating on you impact you or make you feel as a young woman?
first of all, because what I witnessed as a child, I just assumed that I was going to experience that as an adult, as a young adult, and that didn't happen. So when it first happened, and I was so broken, I was so ashamed. So I thought that the reason that he had cheated on me was because of, and these are crazy things now that I look at it, but this is just my story. I thought it was because my complexion, my accent, the way that I look, that my features, that he was not attracted to me anymore, you know? So, and not only that he cheated on me just one time, he cheated 3 times, and I kept taking him back. So in the taking him back was when I started to lose my self-worth, lose my self-esteem, lose my self-confidence. So I had to kind of navigate to try to find that back.
So was that feedback coming from him, or was that self-imposed where you were feeling that, oh, you weren't attractive enough, or you weren't light enough, or whatever? Well, did that come internally, or was that a result of the things that he was saying to you or other people were saying to you for that fact?
Both.
Okay.
It was both, because at the time he had cheated with someone who looked completely different from me, light skin, you know. And so then it was this thing, okay, maybe this is what I have to change. This is what I have to do so that he can be attracted to me again. And at the time I was maybe a size 4. And at the beginning of our relationship, and later on, I ended up being like a 6'7". So I gained a little bit of weight, but I was still a 6'7". And because I was so like messed up, like wanting to fix it, at the time I was what, 21, 22. I wanted to fix it. I wanted to be.
Okay, there she goes again. Wow. So I have a question while we wait for her to come back. How many of you out there, let me know in the comments, have felt the way she felt, that because somebody cheated on you, maybe it was because of what you looked like or what you said. Let me see in the comments how many of you have had a similar experience, because I know what she experienced is definitely not uncommon, that a lot of women wrestle with the way they look in comparison to somebody else. And we always compare, well, and you wonder if somebody cheats on you, well, is that because she looked better than me, or she had more than me? So I know that's definitely not an uncommon feeling. So from the comments, let me see how many of you can identify with that particular feeling of inadequacy, basically, that sometimes we tend to place on ourselves. As the comments come up, let's continue the conversation, LaQuisha. So you begin to question yourself, and inadvertently he was saying some things as well about you or the way you looked or whatever. How, and you kept taking him back. Do you know why? Okay, she's still frozen. She's gone again. Okay. So, okay, I see one person saying they can identify with that. Can anybody else identify with dating someone who cheated on you, and then you, instead of really thinking that it's because of who they are, you self-impose this kind of guilt and inadequacy and low self-esteem on yourself? Okay. So Nayoka says, but still you have to have standards once he cheated. Keep going, bro. You know what, Nayoka? Some people don't have the strength to do that the first time. Now, there are some people, one cheat and you're out of there, but I'm daring to say, and you can challenge me, I'm daring to say that's not normally the first reaction or response from a woman when a man cheats on her. I don't know if what percentage of women you think the first time a man cheats on them leaves them. Come on, let me see some percentages, guys. What percentage of women you think leave the man the first time he cheats on you? I dare say I don't think that's a very high percentage, because I know most women believe we can fix it. Yeah. We can fix him until we learn otherwise. And so, LaQuisha, as you, I was asking, what made you go back to him the first time, the second time, the third time, however long it took before you decided to take that step and walk away?
Like you said, I was trying to fix it. I was trying to make it right. I was trying to say, no, you're going to like me. You're going to love me, whoever this is. And the thing is, he was saying the same thing. You know, he was saying the same thing. So it kind of left me thinking that, again, now this is my first boyfriend. You know, you're just trying to make it right. Like, this is from a person who haven't dated prior to. So, I mean, now being almost 40, I look at things differently. But back then, it was like, okay, I'm going to fix it. Again, I was embarrassed. Now, thinking about where I grew up and what I saw, it was different. So this is like, no, this don't happen. This isn't supposed to happen. So it was just a matter of trying to fix it and get it right that caused me to keep. And then embarrassment. I was like, oh my God, like, really, me? Why is this happening to me? You know.
Well, you know what? I don't know if it had anything to do with youth as much as the fact that women just believe they can fix things. And once you invest time in a person, you just believe if you do this enough, if you say the right things, if you look the right way. So I don't know if that has as much to do with youth as it has to do with womanhood, that we just believe we could fix something. So you got out of that relationship eventually. How much did you change as a result of that first experience?
I think that was like the thing that pushed me into where I'm at today, like pushed me into my purpose. Because what I was trying to share before, I signed out, was that I became so low because I was so embarrassed. Now, taking it a little back to when I was in high school, I was made fun of because of how I looked. So I remember suppressing all those emotions as a young adult, 13, 14, and being teased. And I can still remember some of the things that I was teased about, you know. And so here it is. I'm exploring this new life, being in a new country, being away from my family. And here it is. I'm thinking, okay, this is why he did what he did, because he is not attracted, even though he said it with his words and I'm beautiful, all of this stuff. But I still had that struggle. So what really, really got me was when at this point in my life when I realized I was watching a television show and a commercial came on to have a cosmetic procedure done. And it was at that moment when I made the appointment, when I was lying on the surgeon's desk to have this procedure done, and that I was not able to have that procedure. And the reason, that's when God was working within me. My relationship with God became even, stronger. And it was then that I realized that even though I was trying to fix what was happening on the outside, the real issue was what was going on with inside of me internally. And that's what I see. And that's why I work with women now today, because a lot of times we think that fixing things externally can fill that void, but it's internally is that secret, silent cries and silent struggles that you struggle with, that you're not able to communicate with other people. So
Okay.
that's when it started to change.
Okay, so let me look at some of the comments. When I was asking how many women out there think that, they literally leave the man the first time that he cheats on them, they said maybe 20% of the women. I don't even know if it's that high, honestly, but they're saying at least 20%. I saw that number coming up a couple of times. And Charlene Bethel Rose says women are very forgiving. Esther Duke says, if it happens now, hit the road, Jack. In college, I kept taking that fool back. Okay. T.G. Clark says, I remember with my first boyfriend, when he cheated, I was out there and I think I did that. Okay. I was out of there. And I think I did that because my Grammy gave me strength and validation to move on. But I can understand a person feeling they need to do better. Yeah. Yeah. Thank God for your Grammy, Deidre, and being able to walk away like the first time. Most of us, including myself, didn't have the strength to walk away the first time. So let's continue on with the journey, LaQuisha. So how old were you when you actually thought about having this particular procedure done? Like what age were you by that time?
I was 26.
Okay.
I think I was 26. Mm-hmm.
So the internal work began when you decided, you know what, I need to fix me from the inside out. Walk us through what was one of the first things that you decided to do to change the way you were feeling about yourself, because this is a story of identity and the journey that this just happens to be her particular journey. But many women go on the journey of trying to find themselves and to fix themselves for various reasons. So what was one of the first steps that you took in order to get some things together?
Oh, well, a lot of things. I had to go back again to my foundation. If anyone knew around my family, my dad would always say princess, princess, princess. So I had to go back and look at what the definition of princess was, right? And then because inside the home was good, it was just outside was where there was, the struggle. And once I figured that out, then I went to the Word of God, which God created me this way. He knew me from the beginning. So I started to believing that and saying, you know what? I am beautiful. I am called to do great things. So I started to speak to myself. So a lot of times now, I'm going to say I'm a big believer in affirmations, but affirmations alone doesn't work. So I want you guys to get me. I started to write down the affirmations of how I feel about myself. And I started to speak those things because when I was going through this relationship, I did not like the person that I saw looking back at me in the mirror. So I had to now change the conversations that I was having with myself. And that was the first thing I had to do. I had to change those conversations. I know that, listen, it's his loss if he doesn't want to be with me. So when it was like a light bulb came on, because when I was praying to God, okay, get me back. Lord, help me to get back this relationship. Lord, increase my head, as crazy as it was, because I felt like, oh, I had an enlarged head or whatever. But again, it was what other people were saying, but that was not what God was saying about me. And so once I was able to identify that, and I started to look at myself from a different lens. And once I started to state those affirmations, then I started to get into more personal development and looking at my identity, and not only my identity for what I do, but my identity in Christ and who he has called me to do and what he has called me to be. So once I was able to recognize that, things started to change for me. The light bulb came on, and then people could have seen that light and saw the shift that happened.
So the next dating experience, what was different about the LaQuisha that you had become versus the one that you were at 19, that person that you were at 19, 20, and whenever that next dating experience was?
Oh, you're getting all the juice.
Yeah, that's what we do, adult conversations for mature audiences. That's what we do.
So the thing is, for many years after that one relationship, I held a wall up. So a wall was up because I said, I will never, which was to my detriment later, I would never allow anyone to get that close to me to hurt me again. Mm-hmm. So I did not accept anyone into my space, and I didn't realize that until I started to invest in personal development to see what was going on. Like, okay, you're saying this thing, but you're not really believing this thing. And one of the things that I would say now is that the strongest force in human nature is to be congruent with the way you see yourself. Mm-hmm. And many times we can say something, but we really don't feel that, what we're saying. So with that, I had a wall up. My wall was up. I didn't have anyone to come close to me or anything like that. And my girlfriends would say, girl, this guy's interested in you or looking at you. And I don't see it. Because I was like, nope. So for many years, I didn't date it. I did not date because I did not want to have that feeling again. So I was keeping my own self back from being.
It was really a fear. You were dealing with the fear of being hurt again.
Yes.
That's really what it boils down to. And so how many years between 26 and whatever did you finally, as you were developing and becoming and growing, doing all of these things to enhance yourself from the inside out, when was it that you decided, okay, I'm ready to give this a shot again? And how old were you?
I was maybe 35.
Okay, so maybe like for 10 years, you didn't bother to date anybody.
I didn't bother to date anyone. And then I was at the cusp of this personal development journey as far as coaching. Well, I didn't even know it was coaching at the time. I was just doing something new. So my focus had shifted. So it wasn't about a boyfriend or getting in a relationship, because I was then doing what I wanted to do. And realizing now that I'm free is something. When you become free of dead situations, is like you want to keep moving and going and going. So my focus has shifted. And so now my focus is shifted again and be like, okay, LaQuisha, you getting older. You got to be open them eyes, so that's
so at 35, when you finally just said, okay, I'll give this a shot again. So tell me what was different. Like at 35 now, you'd already worked through most of the things that were holding you back at the time. So what was different, and what kind of lens were you looking through now, even entertaining the prospect of actually dating someone else? What was different about your purview? What was different?
So what was different, I would say, is that I had gained my confidence back. I gained my self-esteem back. So once I knew who I was, I looked at situations different. So now that I got uh, like a back scene of what would happen or what had led up to my ex cheating on me, I try to avoid those things. And so one of the things is that I set the expectations up front. So not just assume. So sometimes as women, we assume that they know, but I realize that a lot of men don't know, So you have to literally teach them, you have to literally share with them your expectations, what you want. And that's what I had to do because I was more confident. It's like, okay, if you don't see it the way I see it, then like deuces,
Right.
keep going because I don't want to waste my energy or my space and get back into that state that I was 10 years ago.
So you mentioned that you started working on yourself, and eventually people began to see you grow. I saw your evolution. I watched your journey. I watched you grow. And obviously, that became attractive to other women who were probably in that same space where you were trying to identify exactly who they were and what they were trying to become. Talk about how you got started with the World Class Women Network. Talk about that.
So my baby, I got started. I was known as the girl in Miami at the time who hosted theme events. So I was just hosting events at the time with my girlfriends, 5, 7 women, and it grew from 7 to 14 to 44 women in my home. And one of my girlfriends, she said, "Quisha, you're onto something." I was like, onto what? All I knew was that we were just sharing about different things that women struggle with. And at the time, women were getting their breakthroughs, and it just grew from by word of mouth. And it was at the moment when I had the ladies in my home with 44 women that my neighbor ran to my door and started knocking, and she said, LaQuisha, they're towing cars because in my community you're not able to park on the street or on the grass. And it was at that moment women were crying, they were getting their breakthroughs, they were having their aha moments, and everyone dispatched, what we gonna do? Our cars are getting towed, so we just left, right? And it was then, I believe that was a shift that God was saying, it's time for you to get bigger and stop playing small. Mm-hmm. And because I was not known as a coach, even to this day, I'm like, I'm not a coach, because I was just doing what I felt was needed at the time. And Miranda, what happened was I said, okay, I'm going to book a room at a venue at a hotel, and I did that. And because I was still playing small, I booked that room for 40 women. And this was my first event. And I charged $20. And 67 women showed up to that event. Mm-hmm. I was still in awe because I was like, what is this? Again, I was not in no program, no coaching or anything. It just happened organically. And at that point, it grew from 67 women to 200 plus women that would attend my events twice yearly. This young girl who was shy, from the Bahamas, and these new people who were flying in from all around the world to attend her events, that it just started to grow. So that's where the World Class Woman, I started as Girl Connection, embracing the woman within. And of course, I believe in the evolution. So I kept evolving, and now it's known as the World Class Woman Network, where I work with all lit women. I call them lit. So if you're a leader, an influencer, a trailblazer, those are the women. Those are my kind of women.
So I want to dial it back a little bit. And when you talked about the sharing your expectations with this person who you are dating or about to date or consider dating, the sharing, how easy is it for you to do just that? To
What?
just tell somebody your expectations, just to tell them, I expect this, or this is what I'm prepared to do, or this is what I'm not prepared to tolerate. How easy is that for you to do now?
It's like a blink of an eye. I just say what I have to say. Like, I mean, it's not a thought, because when you know, listen, we life is too short to settle. Life is too short to, and I'm a fixer by nature. I'm a nurturer. Like, I want to fix it, but at this point in my life, it's not. I can't fix any grown person. Like, you gotta come with it, do the work. And I mean, I can direct you to where that work is, but I'm not going to sit around. So right now is much easier. This is what I want. This is my expectations. This is how you should treat me. Even though I know guys are a little bit later, a little delayed than we are, they can be. It depends. I mean, again, it also depends on who the person is. But I just, it's like a no-brainer. If this isn't what I want, I'm not going to settle, or I'm not going to just give you a time, a day to say this is a possibility, because I don't want to waste your time either.
So it's about identifying the fact that you are valuable. You're worth the time and effort. You're worth the demands that you say you want. Your expectations are in the right place, and it not really comparing, but just saying, this is what I would like to have. As you have a discussion with this person, and if you have a mutual understanding of what his expectations are of you, and likewise what your expectations are of him, then you can begin that journey together. So
Yeah.
what do you say to women who are maybe on the journey now? Because again, I don't think it has much to do with how young you are, but it's really about your self-image. It's about your value. It's about who you believe you are. And so talk to women who are still trying to figure it out, because there are so many out there that are still trying to do that.
And this is so good, Miranda. What a lot of what I've discovered, even being a church girl, like they say, Christian, we cover up a lot. And because we cover, I mean, we were wearing a mask now because we have to, but some people still wearing masks. And they're 60s and 70s, 50s, have grandkids and still are wearing their masks. And when I have women come and talk to me about certain things that they're still holding on from 20, we have to be able to get free. And that's one of the things that I realized, that as I grow, I want people to know that in order for you to be able to impact on a whole different level, you have to become free to love yourself, free to accept yourself. I had to know how to accept myself because if I don't accept myself, no one else will be able to accept myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so so you have to be able to accept yourself. And once you are aware of where you are at, and that's one of the first steps of understanding your identity, you have to be aware. And so that person who is on this journey and not sure where they are, you have to take some time. I call it me days. And a lot of times we think self-love is getting our nails done and hair done. No. That's just the surface part of it. You have to see what things you like, what things make you cry, what things you love doing. You have to be able to get back to those things that no one else can give you but yourself.
Some people never knew what those things were.
Right.
So the work is even deeper than that. But I believe that particularly as women, and this whole idea of hiding behind a mask and all that stuff, culturally, that's what we were raised as. Our ancestors did all kinds of things that were unspoken in communities. And if we really want to embrace who we are, it gets painful, it gets dirty, because you have to go back into the past, so that you don't repeat it.
Right.
And what's happening is, this continues, we're in a cycle. Most people, most families, I mean, they're in a cycle where they see things that are passed down from generation to generation. And because nobody ever talked about it, nobody ever addressed it, people are repeating things, and unbeknown to these younger people that their grandparents did and great grandparents did. But the reality is, it was taboo to talk about it in their generation at that particular time. And that's why I love forums like this, where I say I get to talk to people who have overcome challenges and are not afraid to show their scars, because that's important. As we talk about the way we felt, I didn't have an opportunity to sit down and talk with any parents or guardians about what I felt about relationships, of what happened. My parents divorced. And for me, I wasn't raised with either of them. And so that was a whole different level of being raised by my guardians, my grandmother, my aunts, who loved me dearly and nurtured me and are responsible for the woman that I am today. But not having those types of conversations with anybody, for that fact. And then as an adult, having those conversations with my siblings on different occasions, etc., we got to see so many shared experiences that we didn't even know were shared experiences, because we were not nurtured in the kinds of environment that caused you to talk about these things. And so these types of forums are very, very important. People get that opportunity to openly communicate and to examine their process. And so that's why I like people to talk about their journey, because as you continue to grow and you begin to shed skin, it's like an onion, and you're peeling back all the different layers. I believe that the more we grow, the more we discover who we truly are. And once you hit that tipping point, meaning you're in that spot where like, I can die happy because I know I'm in that realm where God wants me to be, that's when you're able to help so many other people. That's when you don't worry about who's going to hear this, who's going to see this, what they're going to say. And let's go now, as I segue into that conversation that we had, where you're at an event. You're hosting this event, and scores of women are there. And for the first time, you're about to share your story, and you have a panic attack. Let's talk about that.
Listen, so what happened was, what Miranda is alluding to. The ladies that were attending my events, they were not Bahamians. They were not of Bahamian culture. They were of other cultures, so they didn't know who I was or who my family was. So as I created this sacred space, I'm thinking this is for them, but I started sharing my own story. And so at this particular event that I hosted here, and some Bahamians traveled to the event. And as I had up my PowerPoint ready to just go, and I saw them on the registration, and I was like, I'm going to still do this. I'm going to still do it. And I said, I was talking to my coach at the time, and I said, I don't know. I'm ready though. I'm ready, and I'm gearing up myself for this event, coming dancing and so happy. And once I saw them in the VIP section.
Oh, okay. Frozen again. This is just about to really get good. So as we wait for her to kick back in, let me read some of the comments that I am seeing. I see Marisa Smith. Thanks for tuning in. She said open communication is key. Deidre Clark says life indeed is too short to settle. Okay, she's back. Can you hear me? LaQuisha?
Yes.
Okay, great. So come on, let's jump in and continue to tell your story.
Yeah, so as I was about to share, it was my time to share with the ladies. I saw some familiar faces, and I was like, I froze. I was not able to say anything anymore. And it was at that point I realized that I was not free, because I was embarrassed because of what I did and what had transpired within that one relationship. And this was years afterwards. And I realized that, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, and I realized that, LaQuisha.
Oh, wow. So lost her again. She'll be back in a few. So, okay. So Nayoka Hannah says the cycle must be broken. Andrea Bain say, yes, that's a problem. Who else is out there? Guys, thanks for hanging in. Nayoka says, as a married woman, I can truly say that I'm not bound. This show is helping me so much. Thank you so much. Paulette Stewart says, that's powerful. Okay, she's back again. Okay, so somebody does not want you to tell your story.
Right. Like, this is crazy how this is all happening, right? Because I don't know, most of your audience may be Bahamians, and I'm like, okay, now it's time for me to tell a story, and this is happening. But let me tell you, I'm gonna get this story out in the name of Jesus. So I was about to share my story, and I froze when I saw some familiar faces because I thought that people were now going to condemn me for the way I started to see myself. And I had to shift. And my coach knew that was not what we practiced or what we were going over. And she had to take me back, and we had to take a break. And she said, this is going to keep you bound. Like, you cannot talk about freedom if you're not free. Yeah. So everything that I now talk about today is because I've been through it and I've done the work to get past it, and I still saw myself struggling. So it didn't happen, or it didn't change right away for me. It was something that I had to continually build up. And when I did that.
Okay, there she goes again. So she was talking about, just continuing with the story so here was an opportunity to hit the stage and begin to share her experiences of feeling badly, somebody cheating on her, etc. And just because there were Bahamians in the audience, she couldn't do it, because that whole idea of people, which we tend to culturally be very judgmental, very legalistic. We tend to lean towards that way. She couldn't pull it off, but I'm wondering, did you pull it off? Were you able to complete the story that night, or it took you another event to complete the story?
I had to, can you hear me?
Yes.
I did not share it at that event.
Okay.
I was not able to share it at that event because I was still, so it was at that event that I said that I had some more work to do. Mm-hmm. I had some.
Okay, she had some more work to do. Okay, so Paulette Stewart says, this is very powerful. Delarice Roll says, this is so good for ladies with low self-esteem. And I think it's not only for ladies with low self-esteem, because if I poll all of you out here watching tonight, how many of you can honestly say that you've ever shared your story? I'm not talking about the story of one day the Lord saved me and how I've been living ever since then, but I'm talking about being transparent, being your authentic self, being genuine. I can tell you that it's not easy to do, but being a reporter and being interviewing so many people over the years and coming back to my roots and etc. She's still not coming up. I can tell you that it's not easy to just be open about mistakes made in your life. It's not easy. You have to have, first of all, everything starts in the mind. We know that. You have to have the mindset when you go beyond you, because the more you share, the more you feel free. And when you understand that the sum total of all your experiences are really not about you or what your family thinks or your friends, your husband, your spouses, whatever the case is, but it's more about that person out there who needs to hear and see somebody who looks just like them. who feels just like them. They once they see somebody that is the boost that they need to perhaps get over whatever it is that's been suppressing them for so long. I know that's why I do the work that I do nowadays. My whole career has shifted out of mainstream media into doing things like this, speaking to groups and helping people to find their voice. That's what's so very important, to be their authentic selves and to be able to share. And you know what? When the focus is not on, thanks for coming back, Quisha, when the focus is not on how people are going to judge you, but your focus is on how this message is going to help to push somebody, it's easier to push past what people may think. It's so much easier to just put to the background what people think or think people would say about you. The big picture is that you have a life, you have a voice, you have a message that's worth telling. The sum total of your experiences, who you are, what you've done, is purely and solely, in my belief, because of somebody else. And until you share your story. Now, everybody, let's face it, everybody is not called to share it on a large stage or a large platform anywhere. I understand that. But what I'm saying to you, in order to be your true, genuine, authentic self, you must find a space. It's incumbent upon you to find that space where you can speak your truth. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a coach. You don't have to be a speaker. But there's somebody out there who's going to benefit from Nyoka's story. There's somebody who's going to benefit from Ellen's story. There's somebody who's going to benefit from Paulette's story, Talisa's story, Esther's story, Janine's story, Deidre's story. Some people are out there literally waiting for you guys to share your story. You know what else happens? Because on the outside, so on the surface, when we continue to walk around with these masks on, even though we say I'm not perfect, and people know you're not perfect, but people still think that you have no real experience, you don't understand, you can't identify what where they are or what they're going through. And it's a lie. It's a lie from the pit of hell. And so the more you open up, the more you find your place to speak your truth, the more people are going to be able to benefit. And that's why we do what we do. Okay, Esther says, I have in a small group setting, sharing is freedom. And it's not only you that gets free, but others are empowered to tell their story. Absolutely. Charlene said, your story is not for everyone. Absolutely. It's not for everyone. But I'm saying you have to find those persons. You have to find your tribe. That's what we call it. Everybody's not called to the large stage. We know that. But there are a group of people who are out there who are depending on you. So while you're walking around with this false facade and people just seeing you from the surface, they don't get to be free. And as a matter of fact, you're not walking in your real freedom, your liberty, your truth when you hide and you keep things to yourself. The reality is it takes growth. It takes work. Everybody can't do it. Everybody's not able to do it. But with work, with time, you can share. You can begin to tell your story so that others can be encouraged. And at the end of the day, there is such not just the freedom for you, as Esther said, but there is such liberty in watching others come into their truth and others be free. That's why we live. That's why the world spins on its axis. That's why things revolve. That's why we're constantly evolving and growing, because if we don't come to that place, we are not going to die empty. If nobody ever sees the real Miranda or hears Miranda's story, at every opportunity when I get to share a part of it where it's appropriate, I do that because they have to understand Miranda is a work in progress. Miranda didn't just wake up here with the ability to speak her truth. Miranda, yes, she's been trained as a journalist. Yes, she spent her life asking questions and seeking answers. But I didn't always know that it was necessary for me to share my authentic voice. And that's because being in the quote unquote church, that's not a place where they promote truth. I'm sorry to say. That's not a place where they really want to hear your story about what you've actually been through without people sitting in the midst of that type of congregation being judgmental and being legalistic. And for those of us who come from that kind of background, we can identify with that. But there's a tribe, there's a people, there's a group out there of people who are waiting to hear your story. And so I'm encouraging you to be able to share that story. So, LaQuisha, you're back, and we're talking about speaking, having your authentic voice, and being not only true to yourself and to your God, but being a blessing to other people so they know that LaQuisha didn't just wake up at 39 and be able to do the things that she's doing right now. She's gone through and continues to go through the more we process and we grow our lives. So Velma Robinson says many of our lives has been based on others' expectations of us and not what we feel. And I know it's not even how you feel as much as what you know. There's a confidence with speaking your truth.
Yeah.
There's a confidence that comes with you being able to show your scars. There's a confidence that comes with that. And I often say in my world, which is journalism and media, create your own narrative. When you create your own narrative and you speak your own truth and you share your own story, whatever somebody says after that isn't as powerful as what you said. And so at best, they could only conjure up things because they would have already heard the truth from you. And so that's what I'm encouraging all of you out there to do. Quisha, as you're back, this has been some journey with all of these interruptions, but that only says to me the power of the story that you have to share. When did you finally come to the place, and have you come to that place yet where tonight is just the start? We didn't even go into half of the areas that I really wanted to go because of these interruptions. But Kian, let me ask you this point blank. If you were now to speak to an event in a room with nothing but Bahamians, just nothing but Bahamians, and not just Bahamians, grand Bahamians, and not just grand Bahamians, high rock grand Bahamians, okay? If you had that opportunity to stand on a platform, would you, in all authenticity, be able to share your story?
Yeah, so I've been sharing this story now for a couple of years now. And so because I've done the work and in the freedom, and the thing about it is that everyone has a story. Once you identify what your story is and not point the finger, we're all in the same boat. We are all connected in three ways: in our health, our relationships, and in our finances. Everyone have been through those three.
Health, finances, I forgot, relationships. That's what she said. We're all connected some way or the other. So it's important to be able to do that. That's what I really want to say to you guys. No matter where you are, whether you have the opportunity to do it on a large platform or whether you have the opportunity to do it in small groups, the idea is to begin to do it. The more you do it, the easier it becomes, the more gratifying it becomes. And you will hear the stories, you will hear the messages. People will come back and tell you. Each week, I've been doing this show now for the past 5 weeks, and my inbox is always full after every show, after every story told, because people are able to identify with some facet of the individual story. What is it, LaQuisha, that you want to say to the audience out there that perhaps, and I'm talking about something that perhaps you've never even said before, about the impact of people's judgmentalism, if that's a word, or the impact of what it means to a child in particular, because there are pastors, kids out there now. There are people out there right now who are still struggling to find to find their voice. So, what do you say to somebody, Quisha, that is still struggling to push past what mama is going to say, papa's going to say, the cousins, the auntie? What do you say to someone like that right now?
The freedom in life and the freedom to get you to your next level is sharing your story. So, and one of the things that you must identify and know is this, is that everyone has a story. It can be in your health, with your finances, or your relationship. It's just a matter of time. And I would always tell people this, is that time will either expose you or promote you. So if you are in this season where you're like, okay, this is the time for me to share who I am, then no one else can judge you, right? And what I would tell my clients is this: ask God for your assignment. So my story, my world-class brand ain't for everybody. And because I have identified that and I'm okay with that, I'm also okay to say, when someone tells me no, or they're not feeling me, it's okay. You're just not my people. So because I was able to identify that, you ask God for your assignment, what you're supposed to do, and who is supposed to be in your tribe. We have almost 7-8 billion people on this planet, and God has a select few, a select number of people for you. So you have to be able to find that and be able to know it's your story that sets you apart. A lot of times, because we're saying now everything is so saturated, you know what is going to set you apart is by sharing your story. And because I connected with greater, I connected with different people who were operating on a higher energy level than I was, I realized that this is the key. This is the secret key that will help you to get to your next level.
Yeah. So there are scores of people out there. The thing is, as she disappears again, the thing is, for all of you out there, it really doesn't matter who's doing what you're doing, or whether they're doing something similar to what you're doing. It really doesn't matter. That has absolutely nothing to do with it. What it has to do is, again, you being clear on what your assignment is. God has gifted all of us, period. All of us came into the world with talent. All of us came into the world, the scripture says, with the measure of faith. And so we all came into this world on even footing. It's what we decide to do with the talents and the giftings that we have. Nobody has more than the other. What people have been able to do, LaQuisha, is to capitalize on that gift, on that talent that they have. And how do they capitalize on it? By, in your instance, you began to seek personal development. You put in the work. You did the work from the inside out and discovered who you were, and you gained your strength in that way. For other people, they may have gotten a university degree or something and became competent in whatever that field is that they were, in order to be outstanding in that particular genre or that industry that they're in. So when you find whatever it is, I believe Steve Harvey says it all the time. Listen, the gift is the thing that comes natural to you. What do you do? Okay, I'm a talker. That's what I do. My first and only job that I ever had was as a reporter. I'm a writer. That's what I do. So I was fortunate enough that at a very early age, at 15, as a matter of fact, the late great Phil Smith, who was a sportscaster in the Bahamas, I did a talk show with him. It was a national youth talk show or something. I represented my high school. At 15, he pulls me aside and says to me, Miranda, when you go to university, you should major in journalism. At 15. He saw the talent in me. He spoke to the talent in me, and I subsequently pursued that track. It was that simple. And so it really isn't deep. It really, really isn't deep, but the path to finding it is what's difficult for some people. Because even some people that go to university, I know several people that go to university and study certain things, and then they swerve, in my vernacular, and they switch to something else because they found that even though they were good at doing a particular thing, it wasn't. Everything begins with passion, right? I often tell people, when my clients, when they say that's my passion, I said, you need more than passion. Passion is just the beginning. Passion is an emotion that changes and wavers. Sometimes you feel passionate, sometimes you don't. But in addition to passion, and this is for all of you, you don't not only need passion to get something started, but what you need is a commitment. You need to make a commitment that regardless to whether I'm feeling passionate or not, I am going to see this thing through. I am going to do it. So passion is only the beginning, a small beginning. It's the commitment that keeps you driven. It's the commitment that keeps you pushing. It's the commitment that causes you to wake up every day and do it even when you don't feel like it, even when you're in pain. So it has so much more to do than just passion or just having a degree, because we already know that everybody who has a degree, even though it suggests a certain level of competence, that's not always the case. I know some of the most brilliant people, LaQuisha, that don't even have an associate's, that has never even attended a college or university.
Right.
But it's finding you, it's finding your place, and then being comfortable in the space that you're in, that I am going to do all that it takes. I am going to leave no stone unturned until I begin to manifest all of who I am. Commitment, Auburnet Roll, hey Aubrey, says commitment assures consistency. Okay, and by her name popping up, let me tell you a little nugget of what I know about Auburnet. So Auburnet is a registered nurse. That's what she studied for, and she did that for several years. And then Auburnet decided that I'm going to go into law, and now she's an attorney at law. And then, in addition to Auburnet being an attorney, now she just recently released a series of leadership webinars and seminars that she's doing. So again, multi-talented, multi-gifted, determined. So she can patch you up if you need patching up, because she's trained, she's a registered nurse. If you need help with the law, I believe she does corporate law, whatever, she can assist you with that too. And then she's doing more in leadership. She's John Maxwell trained, et cetera, et cetera. So in my opinion, Auburnet publicly is utilizing as many gifts as she can find inside of her. I believe that's what all of us have an obligation to do, as children of God. He's given us all these gifts. Why not use it? If telling your story is a vehicle, to get moving and to help somebody else do it, why not? LaQuisha, while you're back on again, let's talk about some more things that people can be doing to make sure that they're utilizing all of the gifts and talents within them.
And Miranda, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Because I'm shifted to my cell phone now, so I apologize for all of that, the background stuff. So one of the things that you have to do is that you may not realize, and this is what happened to me. I did not realize what I was called to do. I had already had it within me. So it is already in your hands. A lot of people are saying, I have to find my purpose. I have to discover my purpose. It's already in you, just waiting for you to connect with the right person so that they can cause those gifts and those talents and to start to activate. And once you're able to do that, then you will be able to do what you were called to do and not just sit on the fence. It's 2020, guys. It's time to not just sit on the bench, but get in the game. Get in the game for your life. Because one of the things I do realize is that no one is coming to rescue you. Oprah is not going to come to discover you, which I thought for years, right? Because
Mhm.
everyone was like, oh, you the mini Oprah, you the mini. And I started to believe that. And I was waiting. I wrote to Oprah so many times, waiting like, hey,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
other people wrote on my behalf, but I realized that no one is coming to rescue you. One of my mentors say this: if you don't show up for your life, then no one else will. So if you're not
Absolutely.
going to do it, feel the fear and do it anyways. That
Mhm.
thing that is nudging you, that thing that you want to do, just do it. And ask God in your meditation time and say, God, who is my assignment? Who is assigned to me? And guess what? The angels are dispatched to go out and do the work for you. But we're not asking the right questions. We are not
Mhm.
showing up at the right places. We are not connected to the right things. Now,
Right.
see, with me, a lot of people in churchdom did not get what I was doing. I don't play all of the Christian music at my event. I'm doing more, inspirational pop music. And I got a lot of attacks because of that, because I was a PK, because I was a leader in my church, one of the largest churches in Miami. I was so all of these things, I got a backlash for it. But then I realized it was those same people that coming around the back, hey, could you assist me with this? And now I see them doing what I'm doing. Oh,
Mhm.
I'm like, but you were the one who was knocking it. So everyone is not going to see what you're going to see. But guess what? The news is, it's not their vision,
Mhm.
your vision. And once you identify that and know, it doesn't matter what's your age, what you've accomplished or not, it's never too late to get started. And that's what I believe. Having conversations like what Miranda is having every Sunday night is for you to be like, okay, that may not be my story, but I have a story. And
Yeah.
I have some people that are assigned to me. So I want to get them to swerve with me into what is it that you were called to do. So once I was able to identify that, everyone is not going to get you. People don't get me, and it's okay.
Mhm.
Before, it was not. I had to do the work and realize that everyone is not going to be for you,
Right.
right?
Right.
And once you identify that, the freedom begins, and then the results start coming in, and you won't even notice that you're moving and evolving.
I share this often, and for those out there who may be my clients or just anybody, this is one of the things that I share often. Just because you've discovered your purpose, quote unquote, and you're doing what you believe God has called you to do not have undue expectations of people that you know. That means your family members, your friends, and because just because you're doing it, that's your purpose, that's your vision, that's not theirs. And so I'm of the belief that if they support you, thanks be to God. They're not obligated to support you. Again, I call it your tribe. You have a tribe out there. You have a group of people out there that you are called to serve. It's your duty, it's your responsibility to find those people. And if you don't find those people because you have a message that is saying and resonating with their spirit, they'll find you. They'll find you. So there are destiny helpers out there. The thing is to get moving. You have to get moving. You have, in my case, I had to swerve. Swerve means a sudden, abrupt change. A sudden, abrupt change. I literally swerved. Wait a minute, Miranda. You know what it was for me? Sharing another piece of my story again. I hit 50 and wondered what happened to the last 50 years of my life. Where I was at 50 is certainly not where I envisioned myself to be. It
Right.
just wasn't. I knew that there was so much more. I had done a lot. God knows I've done a lot. But I also knew that there was so much more that I could be doing and I wanted to do. And He gave me a brand new vision of what I should be doing. And so in this season of my life, I'm mandated to teach the world how to swerve. I'm mandated to tell the stories of people who have overcome. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing in this particular reason. Why? Because I figured it out. If I don't start talking, I have to participate in my own rescue. Nobody's going to come to get me.
Yes.
I have to make the desired changes. I have to be the change that I want to see. And those of you who are out there, you have to be the change that you want to see. Nobody is coming to get you. I often share refer to the story of the disciples when they were out in the boat. They had just Jesus had just finished the Beatitudes or something, and he told them, go over to the other side, I'm going to meet you over there. And while they're out on the seas, there's this raging storm and they're afraid. And so they're in the storm, the waves are crashing against the boat, and Jesus comes walking on the water towards them. And in the boat, they think it's a ghost. The only one who had the courage to say, wait a minute, if this Jesus, tell me, come to you. And I'm coming. And so he participated in his own rescue. He started walking on water. And even though he sank, the fact of the matter is he was close enough to Jesus that Jesus was able to rescue him. He didn't stay on the boat like the other guys. And so you have to participate in your own rescue. It's a must. It's a must. And so I'm pushing those of you out there. If you haven't gotten started yet, you keep this in mind. You don't have to do it like anybody else. LaQuisha has her way. She knows what her brand is, and she's working that brand. Miranda has a way. She knows what a brand is. She's working a brand. Whatever it is that you have to do, and it doesn't have to look like anybody else. But you cannot, ladies, gentlemen, whoever is out there, you cannot just sit idly by and watch your life pass before you. Hey, Bishanta Reach. Wow, hey girl, how you doing? So Quisha, let's talk a little bit more about you're about to hit a generation. You're about to hit the big 4-0, right? How are you a better person at 40, which you're going to be next February, than you were at 30? Who, LaQuisha at 30 versus LaQuisha at almost 40? Who's that person?
Well, I am still getting to know myself because one of my taglines is becoming your best self. So I'm always looking forward to my best self. And the person that I was at 30, I was still in the middle of knowing who she was and understanding why she does, what she loves to do, asking some of the same questions I had mentioned earlier. Now that I have evolved, and almost 10 years later, I am a different person in the sense that my response to different things is different. So the way I show up is different. So now I'm not, but when I was 30, it was because of people's opinions. I held on to people's opinions. Now I am free to live my life and not be in bondage because of how people feel, how they think, and what they say about me. So once you start to elevate and start to evolve, and one of the things that I had to do was change my associations. So most of the times, my associations that I hung with and I listened to and I watched at 30, I'm not there 10 years later. And so that is how I was able to change. Once I became aware, once I changed my associations, I took massive action. So that massive action was to do it afraid. That massive action was to just do what I was called to do, even if I was fearful, or even if I didn't know the answers to everything.
Mm-hmm. What's the next decade going to look like? The decade of the 40s to 50s. Do you have any idea yet what that's going to look like for you?
Well, one of the things now that I stopped doing is, yes, I have plans. I'm a big believer in planning out my life. But because I thought at the age of 25, I would have had the family and the kids or whatever. I realized that I'm going to place my hands in God's timing.
Right.
And not all spiritual, but that's how I have to keep my sanity. Because once I hit 25 and it didn't happen, I sure it was going to happen at 30. Not sure enough. Knew that at 35 it was going to happen, and that there was stress me out. So I was like, nope, I'm going to flow with God. And in flow with God, I have to trust his plans for my life. Because guess what? Even though I had some disappointments, he has not failed me yet. Like, really, for real, for real. Like, he continues to blow my mind. And so now I don't look, and if we go to our digital world now, before, influencers are not telling you to set 10-year goals. They're talking about 3 to 5 years because things are shifting so fast. So within the next 3 years, I know I'm going to continue to evolve, and I'm looking forward to it. And we talk about, we are women of faith, and we talk about having faith. If you can really see what it is, it's not faith. So I'm looking forward. I have my plans, but I'm looking forward to see what the end will be, kind of deal.
Yeah. And that's what I was talking about. Not about the plans, but I'm just talking about, because you have to have a vision. And
Yes.
so you have a vision of what it's going to look like. You don't know how, you don't know where it's going to turn, but it's a vision of I have a vision, like, so much, right? I'm not even talking about plans because I've lived long enough. I know that's one of the things your dad often used to say, live long enough. So I've lived long enough now as a 55-year-old woman to understand nothing. When I tell you my life is nothing like I planned, and I'm so grateful to God that he didn't listen to me. Like, I'm so glad he didn't listen to me. I don't know if much people say that, but I am grateful God did not listen to me, because if he had listened to me, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you all tonight.
Right.
And so my life has actually not turned out the way I planned it, but I'm right in the will of God for my life right now. And that's the most awesome place to be. It's also a place of vulnerability. And that's what you learn, that literally when you say you walk by faith, you become vulnerable because it's not based on sight. I didn't know that at this stage in my life I would be in Dallas, Texas. Really? Never envisioned it. Was not on a storyboard, a vision board anywhere in my life. But I'm here because this is where he's ordered my steps. This is where, for whatever, however long it takes, things are going to happen right here for however long. And so I have a vision of what that looks like. I have a vision of the things that I want to do. But again, totally, completely on him. So I get that. I get that. It's a place of vulnerability. And once you begin to live like that, you prepare yourself for the stressors that will come,
Mm-hmm.
because they will come. But when you are at a place where I trust God, I'm only here because of you.
Come on now.
I'm only here because of you. This had nothing to do with me. But when I said nevertheless,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's happening. So Albanette says looking and waiting in anticipation while walking by faith. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Walking it out. You just walk it out. I tell people I don't talk my faith. I don't talk it. I walk it out.
Yeah.
You have to walk it out. So as you walk out this faith and you live this life of vulnerability, knowing that your steps are ordered by God, knowing that yes, you're listening, you're watching influences, but ultimately they don't even know. They can only see as far as they can see.
Right.
But I love this line in Yolanda Adams' song that says, sight beyond what I see. You know what's best for me.
Mm-hmm.
Prepare my heart, prepare my mind for whatever comes. I'm going to be ready. That's it. And God has sight beyond what we can see.
Mhm.
That's the best thing to do. So, in our closing time together, LaQuisha, what is it that you want to say specifically when it comes to speaking to finding identity, resting in that identity, and growing in that identity?
So yeah, we're talking about identity. So one of the things that you have to, and I'm going to use this analogy. Um, there's a just picture yourself as a a thermostat, and in a thermostat it has different numbers, right? And so if you are right now operating on a 50% or 75%, I'll use this number, if you're $75,000, right? And so you're going to be feeling like the person who's making $75,000. You're going to be thinking like the person who's making $75,000, and you're going to be feeling, right? Thinking, feeling. You're going to do all of these things. And in order to shift your identity, one of the things that I said earlier is that you have to become aware. Know that, you know what? I'm operating on this level, but I know that I can do more, that I have to require more of myself. And once I was able to identify that and become aware of that, then that put me in places where my association changed. And you have to be able to put yourself in new associations. When I say this, I'm not saying just dump everybody. No, I'm not saying that. Is that the conversations that you have, the things you listen to, the things you say, those things should be evolving and they should be changing in your life. If you realize that you're still having the same conversations that you were 5 and 10 years ago, you have to do an internal check in. You have to do an internal check in with yourself, realizing that no, this is not the life that I want to do. If there's some unsettling right now, it's time for you, even after this show, you start to write down those things. You do a brain dump and start activating those things. You have to become aware. This show is causing you to become aware of those things that you should be doing, but you are allowing setbacks to get you held back, right? I'm in a group now with, it's called Wealthy Wealth Experience with MC Light, Erica Campbell, and all of this. And I can tell you this happened about 3 years ago, Miranda, and I was asked to be a part of this platform. It was at the Ritz-Carlton in Miami, and they told me to. One of my mentors worked for BET, and she's like, "You need to be there." And when I looked at the price for the weekend, it was like 12,500. I was like, "Ooh!" I said, "I can drive there every day, right?" So that was my mindset. And she said, "No." They have looked at your page, they have evaluated you, and they've been watching you. They want you to show up here. The only thing that I had to do was to show up. And I want you guys to get this when you're thinking about identity. When I showed up, I felt like I was not worthy to be there. And this was 3 years ago. And it was only because of what accomplishments they did or they had. But I'm telling you, because I did the first step and I showed up, I received access beyond my imagination. And I started to now be in this group, in this circle of ladies that many of you guys know because they are household names, right? And so once I was able to get into that, the conversation started to shift again for me. So this person that I walked into that event at the Ritz-Carlton, I walked out a different person. So people began to see that shift. So once you become aware, then once you become, so right now, so I was at the $75,000 mark, right? And so now I put myself in the $100,000 mark, right? And once I started to put myself in that environment, things started to change. What we get caught up on, ladies and gentlemen who's watching, we tend to hang with the 50,000 and the 30,000 because it makes us feel like we're making it, we're doing it. But when you step out of your lane, I always tell people, don't stay in your lane, get in a bigger lane. Like, get in a bigger lane that's bigger than you, because what you will then end up doing is you will get caught up with where you're at and those people in that circle. So get in a different lane. So once I was able to get in that larger uh, circle, I started to see the way they think. Started to see the way that they plan. And it was then that I challenged my clients. And now, okay, this is what you have to do. Sometimes now you have to invest. You have to invest in yourself. Many times we want the freebies, but if you don't invest in yourself, there's no next level for you. Like, you really have to invest in the betterment of yourself. And so after becoming aware, you must change your associations, get into associations that know more, who have been there, because they are willing to help and to teach you. And then the third thing is you have to take massive action. If it's something that you want to do, and I double dare you guys who are listening, we have a less than so many days left in this year. If there's something you want to do it now. Do not glide through this fourth quarter, because how you end a thing, that's how you're going to start that thing. So you're going to start the new year. Don't wait for the New Year's resolution. You take massive action now. Do what the majority is doing, right? Do not do what the majority is doing. You go against the grain and you start that business. You write that book. You start, you go back to school. Whatever it is that you have to do, you do it. Take massive action right now. This week, make it your massive action week to get things done. And those are the three things I can tell you, Miranda, like, that you should start doing right now.
That's just awesome. I was nodding all the way because yes, I concur. But every single thing that you said, my coach works 4 hours a day. He works 4 hours a day. He lives in the mountains of Colorado, and that's all he does. 4 hours, because he set himself last year, he made 2.8 million working 4 hours a day. That's the kind of lifestyle I want. I don't intend to be working 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, 5 days a week, whatever it is. And so again, I put myself in a circle of people who do just that.
Right.
They literally do whatever they want. So that means he has 20 hours in the day to do everything else that he wants to do. But he can work more hours if he wants to, but he works 4 hours a day. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that I'm going to work 4 hours a day, but again, just reinforcing your point, putting yourself in that company of persons, in my case, millionaires, who literally chart their course and say, this is what I'm going to do. This is what my life looks like. And he didn't just wake up like that. He wasn't born into wealth, but he structured his life in that vein so that he would spend time, because in the early part of his life, he spent time working on Wall Street and Silicon Valley, all those different places. But he recognized that it was at the detriment of his family, because he was making great money, but wasn't connecting on the levels that he needed to with his children and with his wife at the time.
That is that is good what you're saying, because and what I would tell women or anyone who asks this question is, I had said, you have to define success for yourself. Define what is it that you want. It's getting back to you. See, we look at social media, and I hosted an event last week, and I said you have to learn to disconnect, to connect, to reconnect. And the reason I said that was, I started to pull myself away from social media, because if someone says, well, how are you going to do your business? I said, well, my business is not going to be 7 days a week. Like, you have to be able to take back control, because this app is they are manipulating us, right? Like, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah. Okay.
But they are manipulating us. And if you don't get that, you will still be twiddling your thumbs and being in the same cycle year in and year out, talking about New Year's resolution that you don't keep after February, right? So we have to become real with ourselves. And talking about 10 years ago when I was 30, that was me. I'm a big New Year's resolution type of girl. And I realized, and I woke up, and because I'm around a different group of energy, now they're saying, my new year can begin today if I wanted to. My new year can begin today. So it's how you, so important. This is so important that you must identify success for yourself. What does that look like? And I call it my five. I'm just going to say this right quick, Miranda. I say this in my I call it my fabulous five. Darren Hardy call it the wheel of life.
Yeah.
You have to be able to evaluate these 5 areas. And this is what I do and all my clients, those who are in my institute, this is what we work on. The first 5 things: your faith. Evaluate where you are in that. When I know things are in chaos around my life, I know I'm not in alignment with God. So I know I have to disconnect. I have to fast. Then you have to look at your finances. How are you spending your money? How are you investing? If you guys don't know, times have changed. Things have shifted. You have to start investing and looking at those things. Then in your fitness, are you working out? How's your health life? Like my birthday celebrations are me getting a clean bill of health from the doctor. That's something to celebrate, because you can have all the wealth, and if you don't have any health, then what is it? Ask Steve Jobs about that. Then you have to look at your family and friends. Are you investing that time with them?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Not just on social media or virtually. How are you with your friends and your family? You need that. The Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We need that. Then fun. You guys need some fun in your life. Do something that's going to cause you to have some kind of balance. And it shouldn't be just work or imbalance. And that's why some people say you have to work on those 5 areas. Evaluate where you are, and then see where you want to be. Only
Absolutely.
You that.
You have to have a goal. You have to have a goal. I like the idea. Oh, hey, Travis is on. Travis McDonald. Travis says, changing lanes and shifting gears will always change your life for the better. Absolutely. Swerve. Do it. You have to get active. You have to make yourself accountable to yourself. I hear people talk about accountability partners all the time. I mean, and that's cool if you need it, but you have to be true to yourself. You need to be true to yourself. Sometimes, yes, we all need support and all that stuff, but you have to make, once again, it goes back to my word that I love to use, commitment. You have to make a commitment to yourself. Every day that I wake up, I am going to put time in my business, in my life. And the five F's would you refer to? If you don't put time in your faith, it's not going to grow, because faith is something by its very nature. I said the scripture earlier that every one of us was given the measure of faith.
Yeah.
Even we have to make our faith grow. We have to work it. And that's how we're able to do the impossible. That's how we're able to do things that we envision, things when we're in the invisible. That's how we're able to bring them into the visible, because we're activating faith and doing all those things, making good investments, spending time with our family, having fun in our lives. All of those things are necessary. I did a talk the other day on how to die empty. And one of the things I was telling the group was the fact that we're running out of tomorrows. We're running out of tomorrows. So every time you say, I'll do it tomorrow, you ran out of a tomorrow. Every time you say, I can call her tomorrow, I'm going to call him tomorrow, I'm going to fix this tomorrow, we're running out of tomorrows. Tomorrows are not promised. They are not guaranteed. So right now, with this conversation, really all we have is now.
All we have is now.
All we have is now. And so the opportunity for those who are viewing to make a decision right now that this is what I'm going to do. And again, you could start the work tonight before you go to sleep, even if that means just writing it down, just making a list. I'm big on setting goals. I'm big on writing, because that's my nature, to write things down. I'm big on setting SMART goals, specific goals, measurable goals, attainable goals, relevant goals, time-based goals. You have to set it. Otherwise, you're just like the chaff which the wind drives away. You're just floating. You're just living a life filled, oh, well, I might as well. What if? Anyway, I can see. All those kinds of trivial things that we say, and we're running out of tomorrows. Embrace now. Embrace now. That idea that you have, that you was putting off because I don't have the money to get the thing launched or whatever. Okay, fine. So you don't have the money. But what about actually starting to create the plan there? So that when you get the money, you actually have something to work on. So there's no excuse. When I was in university, one of the first things, a poem I learned was a poem that said, excuses are tools of incompetence that build monuments to nothingness. Those who specialize in them are seldom good for anything else. Therefore, there are no excuses. That's one of the first things we were told. There are no excuses. We have to start making things work for us right now. Can't overemphasize that. We always heard, why put off for tomorrow when you can do it today? Yeah, like that's real because tomorrows are not promised. If you don't get anything else, do it now. COVID or no COVID, you know the restrictions. What COVID has provided, I believe, for the world was an opportunity for a do-over, an opportunity to rethink the way we were approaching life in general, and then more specific when it comes to your personal life, whether you're still employed, whether you're unemployed. COVID has given you an opportunity for a do-over. You can create the life that you want. You can do the things that you had always put off, but you didn't do it before because you were too busy. My friend Loretta, who knows how to sew, she now is sewing again. She has the time to do it now. So she's creating masks, all different designs and colors and whatever. And now she, in the midst of COVID, has now been able to supplement her income. And many other people out there are doing it. So it's just Charlene Bethel says, Roll says, a reset. But it's bigger than just a reset, because in order to reset, you have to ensure that when you reset again, you got to stick with that thing because we always fall back. So after you reset, you have to make a commitment to keep moving. I come back to my word again. If you don't keep moving after you've reset, and that's why it's a regular thing. The scripture says to us that we always must renew our minds. And so that's why going to the webinars and taking the seminars and the free courses and all kinds of things. I mean, at some point, I don't know if you were like me, but it's like, okay, I really need to pull back. I need to pull away from all these kinds of things. And everybody out there knows that everything that you see on social media is not real. People like us who work in the media world, we create stories. I work in PR and I create stories for my clients. We decide what is the narrative that we want to create. And once we determine what that narrative is, we make sure that everything that they do or say is in alignment with that narrative, with that brand that we have created. So everything that you see on social media is not real. It's conjured up. It's fabricated for the most part. So you have to be able to, and that's not always a bad thing. What you do then is use it for your own benefit. You determine what's best for you. You determine the narrative that you want to create. Like I said, when I get a PR client, we determine what that narrative is going to be, the brand that we build around them. We decide that. That's not always who they are. Some people naturally, we help to create and develop a brand. Most people, it's not them. It's not real. It's only what you see on stage. That's why they have stage names, because that's who they are on stage. But you can't catch them in a room alone by themselves, it's not who they are. You have to be able to determine that too as you move forward. The more you grow, the more you connect with different peoples. And I might add this too, Quisha. My experience has been the more wealthy people that I'm around, the more simple their lives are.
Yes. Yes.
Very, very, very simple,
Yeah.
very less complicated. Again, I mean, these are the people who, unlike us, they walking around with Louis on and Gucci and whatever other things every day, all day. No.
Right.
Now, the fabulous, the other folk like us, they identify with brand names more than, I'm talking about wealthy people now,
Right.
wealthy people.
Difference.
You could go into homes of wealthy people. When I say wealthy people, I'm talking particularly about people who are multimillionaires and more. When I've had the opportunity to go into their homes, when you walk in, you know it's a wealthy place.
Right.
But they're not walking around with Louis Vuitton's name plastered on them or Gucci's name plastered on them or anything that they're wearing. You cannot tell. They don't even drive the fancy quote unquote cars unless it's a special occasion and they're going to an event that calls for that, where everybody is driving and looking like that. The people who I've been around, they'd rather sit around on their back porch or just go camping or any the most simplistic things that
Right.
we won't want to do.
Yeah.
That's what they enjoy. That's what they spend their 20 plus hours
Yeah.
doing.
My wealth mentor says that the rich makes noise, but the wealthy is silent.
Yep.
So when she said that years ago to me, I said, wow. So the wealthy, so you tell the difference. So you know the difference, how people show up online and then you know their back life in his life.
Absolutely. It's
It's
not real. Like I said, people like me get paid to
like,
give to create images for people, to create narratives for people. So when that goes to the press, we create that. That's what we get paid to do. And so that's why you cannot live your life comparing it to somebody else. I don't care who it is. You cannot live your life looking at the Joneses or the Smiths or the whoever. You have to create your own life and be comfortable in the skin that you're in, whether that makes you a thousandaire or a millionaire, a billionaire, or a trillionaire. It really doesn't matter. Once you find your authentic voice, once you find your authentic self, and once you're operating and functioning in that thing that you know you're supposed to do, that's all that really matters. Y'all take the pressure off yourself.
it goes back to identifying what success looks like for you and your
Yep,
family. Once you identify that, then what someone else does doesn't matter. And that's one of the things that I had to grow to and grow through. That okay, no, I don't want that. I had to figure out, what does LaQuisha want? Once I was able to identify that, then I was able to relax in that and be okay with the decisions that I make. So once you identify that, because some people right now may be saying, man, that's a whole lot of work, or I don't have her story of suffering and struggling from self-esteem. But guess what, you're making some excuses one way or the other. And I shared on Instagram the other day that your excuses give someone else an opportunity, meaning that as long as you keep coming up with the excuses that this is going to happen, something is called life, something is always going to come up. So you have to then pull yourself back, write in your journal. Like, I'm a big journal writer. I have a gratitude journal, a love journal. Like, I have all these journals, right? And so you have to go and take that time and start writing. Get back to what you want to do. Get back to what you want to, you love. I tell my clients all this time, Miranda, is that go back to that 7-year-old and 8-year-old kid who had dreams. When we were younger, we just did stuff, right? But then somehow life has happened to us and we don't want to dream again. Like we don't want to do those things that we should be doing that gives us life, that gives us fulfillment, right? So, and social media, yes, is a great tool, but social media is a tool that we should use. It shouldn't not be using us. And that's what's happening. And once you, again, it all starts with awareness. Once you start to identify what is it that you want, who you want to hang around, the conversations that you want to have, once you start identifying that, the people who are assigned to you will show up. And guess what? If you're the dominating factor in that circle or group, those people who are around you will see the shift and they too will then start to shift, right? And so that's when one of my favorite quotes, and I think Miranda alluded to it earlier about Mahatma Gandhi, it says, be the change that you want to see. You have to be the change that you want to see. So when there's chaos in the world, I call it in my world class bubble, there's no chaos here because I control what's going on in this circle, right? The late great Dr. Miles Monroe said that in a crisis, your character is developed. And a lot of people who have been faking the funk are losing their minds in this season because as long as they were pushing and getting the applause and being out there, but being with themselves, a lot of people are having a hard time with that, Miranda. A lot of people are struggling. Depression is up. Domestic violence is up because they were pushing out everything else. But now that they have to deal with themselves and sit with themselves, sit with their families, they're like, divorce rate is up in this time too. I'm like, be getting along, doing stuff with your family, but that's not the case. And there's too many people. I said, I refuse to allow another person on my watch end up like Robin Williams, who made everyone laugh. And inside, he was silently crying. He made everyone laugh, the comedian.
Mm-hmm.
Or Kate Spade, who had a $1 billion brand and just committed suicide and left an 8-year-old daughter. Like these are things that we have to take into consideration and realize that, you know what? Yes, you may get the success, but if you are waiting for these external forces to fill that empty void, you're going to always be needing that extra feel like you want somebody else to do that only you can do. No one else can rescue you. So once you are aware of where you are and where you want to go, once you have identified what success means and looks like for you, then you're going to start to eliminate your excuses because they're not valid. I hosted an event every December called No More Excuses, where we eliminated excuses for that year because every year, every level is going to be a new excuse. Like you can't it's going to be a new fear. Like the fear, I told the ladies last week, like, yes, they said, are you ever fearful? Yes, I'm always fearful. But I said, okay, Fear, you ready? I'm picking you up and we're going to go together because you're going to feel the fear and do it anyway. I don't teach anything that I haven't walked through or haven't dealt with myself because it's going to be convicted. I'm going to be convicted.
Absolutely.
Because you have to show up to your true self. People are looking for authenticity.
Yes.
They're not for the fluff. We've done a lot of fluff in church. We have done a lot of fluff in public, and it's time for us to be real so that that person who is on the edge, who is maybe watching this tonight, maybe suffering with low self-esteem, maybe suffering with depression, maybe suffering with their knowing who they are. But it will take us and for Miranda to be obedient, to have this type of discussion, to say, you know what, I don't know who this is for, but the person who it is for will show up and then be activated. So we want to give you guys practical steps in how to move forward, how to make the shift in your life, how to move from the 75 to the 100. Because what I do know is that your mouth can say anything, but if you don't feel that way, listen, the strongest force in human nature is that for you to be congruent with the way you see yourself. Even though I always felt confident, I was like, but then I realized that I still had some struggles. But now that I've faced the fact, I've faced myself. I said it's you versus you. It's me versus me. Not me versus the world. It's me versus me. Quisha, we have to do this because everywhere I go, every year as I get older, I'm taking myself with me and I want to love the person that I'm taking myself with.
Yeah.
Yes, go to the movies, go to the park, travel, do things. And I do all these things, right? But you have to do these things or whatever it is. You have to be able to sit down, write down what is it and how would you define success so that you can move forward with your life. And it is in that freedom, freedom happens. It is in that you realize that, wow, this is what I really want. This is what I, if you can say at night, every night, that, wow, I can sleep well at night. That's my thing. I can sleep well at night knowing that I've done my best that day. That's something to be rewarded. So you have to
Absolutely.
celebrate the small steps. Don't be so hard on yourself. Be
Mhm.
kind to yourself. You know, it took a long time for you to be able to get to where you're at, and it's not too late, but you have to be able to push yourself to take massive action, like I said.
Yeah, definitely. I see so many friends on. I see my cousin Monique. Hey, Monique, good to see you. We're still praying for you. I saw Lindbergh. Hey, Lindbergh, good to see you too. I saw Nakia, I believe. Nikita. Yeah, I believe I saw Nikita out there. But my program Swerve starts. The S is for stop making excuses. That's
Mhm.
the number one thing. We start there with the reason why. When we talk about self-awareness and self-discovery, some people are not even aware. So we start with discovering an exercise for you to discover who you are. And people learn so much about who they are and then create an awareness and move on. But one of the number one things that all of us do is we make excuses. And I tell my people all the time, my clients, everybody has a go-to excuse. It's one you use over and over and over again
Mhm.
because you don't want to push yourself, because you are comfortable and you are fearful, but you don't want to admit it. You don't want to admit it. So whenever somebody approaches you with something that's outside of your comfort zone or something that you've never done before, you make this excuse. And so you have to stop making the excuses. That's the point. If you could get yourself to just stop, and you've repeated it over and over again, do it scared. Just do it. Here's the thing. You don't know what's going to happen. You
Right,
don't.
right.
You have no idea what's going to happen, but you do know what's going to happen if you don't do anything.
And Miranda, if I could add, when I first started, I mean, it's so much to talk about, but when I started even with hosting my events, for the first few years, I was not the keynote speaker. I did not even speak. Someone introduced me. I was like, "Hi." I was so shy. Like I did not want to do it until I had other people who had, paved the way, kind of pushed me and says, "Listen, you have to do it. People are showing up because they want to hear from you." And I was like, "No, I don't have anything to say." But
Mhm.
so you have to be. So when I say do it afraid, you're looking at someone who did it afraid. Like I had to do it. I'm hosting. I'm telling you, it's my events that I'm hosting, and I was not speaking at them. Like, and so that's just crazy. It was my
Yes,
host.
but here's the thing. The reality is everybody, every single person that did it the first time did it afraid
Right,
because they never did it before.
right,
They didn't know what to do. They had a vision, they set some goals, and they activated it, and it happened. And again, you never know what's going to happen. You don't know the outcome simply because you're not Alpha and Omega. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. But as you take each step towards it, you begin to see. That's like if you're driving and you're headed somewhere. When you leave home, you don't know what it's going to look like when you get to your destination. But the closer you get, the more illumination that happens. You begin to see the lights, the external lights from that building or whatever you're headed to. If there's music or anything going on, the closer you get, you begin to hear the music. You maybe even hear the voices if somebody is speaking, the closer you get. And that's because movement. You are continuing to move forward, to push forward. You got to do it. You cannot sit down. Let me see if I can get some more comments in here. We need to wake up as people. That's what I believe. That's Pam. Y'all have to excuse me. These things looking blurry, y'all. So Lindbergh says, wow, I'm enjoying this topic and discussion. I'm visually challenged, but I could read, y'all. Trust me on that. I don't know where my glasses are. Okay, so Cherie says, Mommy said, watch the Joneses, you'll become a Joneser. Know your worth. Okay, Cherie. Okay, focus on your life and where you want to go. That's what Delary says. Let's see what else we have here. Auburnett says, it happened. Okay, great show, ladies. God bless you both. Thank you, Loretta. Yeah, so this journey of learning, of growing, of evolving, of developing, get started, guys. There's just no other way to say it. Just get started. And the thing is, you don't have to do it. You could be afraid, but you don't have to do it alone. There are zillions of people out there who have done it before you, and they can help you. All you need to do is connect. Again, you heard this before. Connect with the right people. Connect with someone who can point you. If they can't help you themselves, they can point you in the direction that you need to go. That's why you need a mentor. That's why you need a coach. You need people like that. And whether they are technically called those things, but everybody needs a go-to person. Everybody needs someone, a referral. I have this friend, I think she's one of the most amazing people in the world. But I always tell her she plays herself small and she's a big fish in a small pond. That's how I always allude to her, a big fish in a small pond. I said, listen, you don't need to be in a pond. You need to be in an ocean with fish that are the same size as you and larger. You see what I'm saying? And so I know it's a fear that's keeping her in that pond where she's a big fish. And I'm saying, girl, it's time to get into the ocean. Swim with the dolphins and the whales and whatever other manner of enormous creatures, sea creatures that exist out there. But you have to find your way out. No matter what you're going in. And we're talking a lot and understanding that there are a lot of people out there unemployed, don't know where the next dollar is coming from. Their minds are not at ease. And I'm sensitive to all of that, understanding that everything begins and ends in your mind. And the one thing in my program, we're big on emotional intelligence and mental health. Because let me tell you something, if you cannot make good decisions, even when, quote unquote, the spirit speaks to you, you're not going to know his voice. You're not going to make the right decisions because in your mind that's unstable, in your emotions that is not intelligent, you're going to be questioning. And that's why people hold back so many times. I often say procrastination and overthinking, they're twins. We overthink a lot of things. They're twins. Excuses is their elder brother. That's my quote. That's what I say. Listen here, when you overthink and procrastinate, you are holding yourself back. Nobody has to do anything. You hold yourself back, you question yourself. So if you're not emotionally intelligent, if you're not mentally healthy, you're not going to make good decisions. It will not happen. I don't care how spiritual you are. I don't care how much you fast. I don't care how much you speak in tongues. You'll do all of those things. You'll swing on chandeliers. You'll prophesy to everybody in the building and outside. and still, when it comes to you, not make good decisions. There's a reason. There's a reason God made us tripartite. There's a reason we are spirit, soul, and body. We need all of our parts working together in harmony. We cannot, I tell people often, you can't have a fat spirit and a lean soul and body. You're not putting any emphasis on building your soul, your will, your intellect. You're not putting any emphasis on keeping your body healthy, in stride. So you're off balance. Likewise, if your body fat and all these things happening negatively in your body and your will, your soul, and your spirit lean, you have a problem. So we have an obligation to make sure that this tripartite being that God created, that He blew His breath in. And when we think about His breath, that's creativity at its finest, at its highest. That's Him placing Himself in us. And that really doesn't have anything to do with Christianity. That just has to do with living. Because He blew breath into Adam. Man became this living soul. But the point is, use all that is in you. All of your creative power, you have it. You don't have to go searching, trying to get something from somebody else. You have it, and you need to develop what's inside of you. What's inside of you. Quisha, this has been such a rich conversation tonight, despite the off, the on, and everything. I'm so proud of the work that you're doing. I'm so proud that you recognize the people that you're called to serve. I'm so proud that you're focused and you're continuing to forge forward with all the things that you are obligated to bring forth in this earth. Nobody else, just you. And as long as you stay on track with those things, as long as you have to pull somebody else up. I love what Bishop Ellis told me many, many years ago. Bishop Ellis he said to me, I don't understand why people say it's lonely at the top. He said it's only lonely at the top when you don't take anyone with you.
Don't help enough people to get it. Yep, that's what I
When you don't take people with you on your journey, you are going to feel lonely. You are going to feel like you're alone, and it's an illusion. It is an illusion. It's a deception at its highest. When people start to feel lonely and isolated and all that kind of stuff, that's a lie. It's not true. There are billions, 7 billion people in the world? You are not the only one. You are not the only one who's stressed out. You're not the only one who's in a bad place. You're not the only one who things don't seem to be going well for you. You're not the only one. You need just reach out. Reach out to someone who can hold your hand and help you through the process that you're going through. That's all we need. Anyone who's going anywhere, take somebody with them.
Right.
Talks it out with somebody. You need that voice. You need that external, that somebody who's saying, maybe you should consider this. Maybe you should stop. Maybe you should pause right now. You need someone in your life like that. If you don't have it, that's because you didn't create. Don't blame it on other people.
Right.
I'm a proponent for owning your decisions and what you've done. So if you don't have those people in your lives, that's because your choices.
Right. And one of the things we have to break as a culture and as a people, we have to break the scarcity mindset. And one of the things why a lot of people feel like they're lonely at the top, and I always say this, don't grow alone, is that you have to, and Bishop Ellis was right, if you are at the top and there's no one else with you, you are being completely selfish and did not do what you were supposed to do. Because even Jesus, once he showed up, the masses came because he was giving them something that they wanted, right? So we have to be able to you have to shift from the scarcity mindset. And social media can cause that, or just looking at other people's life can cause you to be like, wow, if I share what I have, then it won't be enough for me. You have to get out of that mindset. That was another thing that I had to shift from too. And everyone is like, LaQuisha, you want to give away everything. yes, I as once as long as I get a revelation of something, I want to tell everybody because I want everybody to free. When I attend events, I'm going with 8, 12 women at a time. So that's why the leaders of these events and stuff knew who I was, because I was rolling deep. Because I'm like, listen, if I mean, 12 of us weren't in the room together, but I was like, if all of us had to be in the room together, we were going to be in the room together. That's how I was determined. And that's how I set myself apart from everyone, because I'm always eager to give people, as long as I got an awareness, as I'm getting the results and I see that it's working, I want everyone else. So we have to get rid of that myth that, if I share it, then there won't be enough for me. There
Add
is,
add value to people's lives.
yeah,
That's what you do, add value. And I often say it doesn't matter how many people are doing the same thing that you do, that has no relevance for me. What's important is they can never do it the way that you do, because only you have your DNA, only you have those fingerprints. And so thousands of people out there are doing what I do, are doing what Quisha does, but they cannot do it the way
yeah.
that we do it, because we are unique in our own ways. And that's what you have to appreciate. Now, of course, you have to be mindful of, as we talked about, those associations, the people that you align yourself with, who you pour into, who you allow to pour on you. You have to be cognizant of all of those things. But what's so important is that you begin to connect, you begin to collaborate. That's what people have a problem with, collaborating. But that's insecure people. That's insecure people. That's the only way for somebody who doesn't want to collab when an opportunity comes and it fits. I'm not talking about strange stuff outside of what you're doing, but when it fits, you just go for it because that's what you do. You just collab, you connect. You're not worrying about who's gonna outshine who, and what if the people like her more than me. And so I was working on a collaboration because I'm on this trend now where I decided I started this program in April. I've already been coaching people in Canada and the US and Europe, right? And then it dawned on me, you've already reached out to all of these people. What about the Caribbean? Now, typically, the Bahamas, we really don't have deep, deep connects in the Caribbean as such, right? We're probably more connected to the US than the Caribbean at large, the majority of us. So then I was like, you know what? You need to start connecting and reaching out to people who are doing similar things like you in the Caribbean. And so I began and started working with some people in Guyana and TCI. And then I reached to Barbados. Now, Barbados is the land of my grandfather's birth, Innis. Um, I don't know the people that I visited and cruised and stuff there, but I don't really know them, right? So I figured, oh, this will be a wonderful place to start, and got some inside information on who's doing what, connected with these people. And do you know, I reached out to several and one person responded, like literally one. So here I am thinking, just because they see Innis, this may excite them because it's a native name, or should be to them, right? Wrong. So this lady, she connects with me and I tell her exactly what I'm doing, what I want to do, how I'd like to collab with her, how I can add some value to what she's doing and vice versa. And she said, oh yeah, great, wonderful. Never came back. Never. I later found out from someone that as much as you always think you don't know someone someplace, I found someone who I knew who was living there. I actually knew. And it turns out that she thought I was tapping into her market, and she let it fall through the ground.
Yeah,
And
that,
it could have been something amazing. And so as you begin to work with other people, be secure. Know that who you are is who you are. What you do is what you do, and nobody else can do it as good as you. They
right.
may do it differently, but that's who you are. So, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Krish, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Keep pushing, keep growing. I can't wait for 40, because I can only imagine how awesome 40 is going to be as you continue to forge your way through this world and help to create world-class women. Let people know where they can find you if they're interested in your program and some of your events and what you do.
So you can find me right now at the World Class Women Institute.com. So in there you will be able to find out about my intensive, about my World Class Women Network, and also about things that I have coming up. Like I have an intensive coming up December 4th and 5th. It's going to be virtually, and it's limited to just a specific number of people, just because I have retired now from empowerment talks to getting the work done and helping women to become free with themselves, free with loving themselves and defining that success and that path that they want to do. And so so we do the work. We do the work in getting the work done, looking at ourselves and being able to be free. And I shared my story with that and how I was able to overcome. And I know we had a lot of delays within this and then within this live, but I want you guys to just encourage you to stick with it. Miranda has an amazing program, Swerve. If you feel that we were tugging on you, this is the time to reach out to her, and so that you can help her. You cannot do life on your own. You cannot be like, oh, I'm waiting on the Holy Spirit. God has done everything what he has already going to do. So all he's waiting now for you to show up, for you to do the work so that you can become successful after defining that for yourself. And so again, you can reach me at LaQuishaWilliams.com and also the World Class Woman Institute.com to hear some more about me. And the work continues, the evolution continues, the growth continues, even with all the accolades and with all the accomplishments that I've received over the years. It was only because I eliminated my excuses and I showed up for LaQuisha. So I want to thank you, Miranda, for having me on your show. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for listening and tuning in.
Awesomeness. So let me read these final comments. This is Crystal. Hey, Crystal. She says The 4-Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss, that a past coach of mine recommended. Be in the room with like-minded people that will push you into your destiny. Absolutely right. Auburnett says, excellent, Charlene. Bethel Rose says, very good point. Cherie says, unbox yourself. Oh, is this Pam Base? Says, hi, Miranda. Hi, Pam. Delary says, putting your faith into action. What else we have here? LaQuisha, I love your 5 points. Very inspiring. That's Paulette Stewart. What else? Here we go. Trying to scroll through some more.
So I can't see any comments.
You can't see them? Oh, that's so bad. Wow. Okay, let's see what else. Focus on your life and where you want to go. That's Della Reese. There are tons. I just want to acknowledge you guys for taking the time. Monique, thank you so much for hanging my cousin. She lost her daughter, and we're praying for her and everything. We love you, and thank you for hanging with me tonight. Thank you all so much. Didn't get to all the comments, but I appreciate you. Share this. Share this live stream after we record. It's loaded on my page, my business page. Swerve with me on Facebook. That's what it's called. You'll find me there. You'll find me live. Oh, by the way, guys, y'all please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Swerve with me. Subscribe to the channel. Visit my website if you want to get more information about the coaching program. It's a group coaching program. I do some one-on-ones, but it's really a group coaching program so that you can get the full benefit of the interaction and begin to see that people are going through the same types of things that you do, and together we're stronger, together we're better. So thank you so much, everybody, for hanging with me tonight, hanging with us tonight. I'll see you again next week, every Sunday, 8 o'clock. I have an awesome lineup for 2021 already, January. I'm booking. So by the way, those of you out there, if you have an amazing story that you would like to share about overcoming, and you're at that place in your life where you're healed mentally, spiritually, intellectually, and you want to share your story, I want to help you tell it. So you can reach out to me on my website, swervewithme.com, inbox me, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm on every social media place that you could think of. So reach out to me. Let's connect. Let's talk so that we can together inspire others to get started so that they can create the life that they want. So thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Swerve with Me, Adults Conversations for Mature Audiences Only. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.